Welcome, guys, to Zero Chills TV, and today we have an amazing Akiola here. Immediately I expected a countdown, what happened? Anyway, today we have one of the most amazing creative directors in the country. He used to have dreads, but now he doesn't, which is very funny. His name is Teddy Muthusi. He was also in Big Brother Africa. He's the host of Lions Den. I applied for Lions Den. I was never accepted, so maybe I'll talk to him after this. However, let's welcome Teddy Muthusi, creative director, Scanad. Welcome, Ted. Tell us something small that we don't know about you.
Well, what don't you know about me? Let me tell you about my background. So, yes, you don't know about me. I am married. Yes, very happily married. The lady who keeps me in check, who is also in advertising. And then there's the little one who you can see who's drawn those things, who also keeps me going, my biggest protector. What am I? I'm just a fun-loving person. I don't know if you knew that. I'm a lover of life. It's an interesting thing. Just, every day is a new day. Every day has possibilities. Sometimes, I guess I can be a bit of a rebel. Sometimes I can be an introvert. Sometimes I can be an extrovert. But anyway,
Yes.
it depends on what day you'll meet me. You'll have different opinions on me.
Yes. Now, I think we'll go straight to it. You are the creative director of Scanad, and you have a copy background. A lot of people tend to confuse copywriting and the other copywriting, which is what we are discussing a few minutes ago. Will you just clarify what a copywriter does? The copywriting that you do.
A copywriter in advertising, basically, you're the guy behind the words. You're the guy who writes the scripts. You're the guy who comes up with the taglines. You're the guy who, any words that you see in advertising, that sort of thing. That's what a copywriter is. So the words used in advertising, that is what is called copy. So there's a difference between, obviously, a copywriter and somebody who gets copyrights. Because there's a time I met somebody and one of those things, there's something I really wanted to brand, and it's nothing to do with the intellectual property. So a copywriter, basically, your craft. There's some guys who craft in, the artistic side of it, the graphic side of it, and the copywriter is the guy, in charge of, let's say, the words, in advertising. But just a correction, I am also one of the creative directors at Scanad, not the only creative director at Scanad.
Yes, understood. That is a very pertinent correction to make, lest we get fired here. Let's talk something about, so having that background in copy yourself, how then do you say, if I'm a Shoya or Delphine or someone who is looking to become a copywriter, and you find that in most Kenyan universities, this is not a skill that is taught. So how then do you become a copywriter? What are the skills that you look out for? Is it a passion? Is it something that can be taught?
I think, copy, it's interesting. Well, copy is a skill, yes, writing. But I think to be a copywriter, you've been more of somebody who plays around with words, who likes, coming up, that kind of thing of phrases and stuff like that. Because it's a different kind of writing. And it's more writing based on just street smarts, knowing how to say something in a few words. Like if there's a product, it's something that you actually learn. Because, like, for instance, I can't say somebody who's got like a master's in literature can actually become a copywriter. The people who are good in, newspapers, editorial and stuff like that, you can't become a copywriter. But being a copywriter is just not the writing skill. It's to learn how to interpret like consumer language, or interpret like, several things that you learn in advertising, how to communicate something from a brand or, in a very short way. But I can't say that it's something that will be taught in uni. Yes, nowadays there are some, universities that specialize in that sort of thing. I don't, well, most of them, I think, outside the country. My background is international relations and diplomacy. But it's just a love for something that you get. You could be that girl who comes up with new slang words. You could be, that girl was just an entertainer somewhere. So, it's, do you have a love for that sort of thing? It's not a thing that you're taught here. It's a thing that you learn along the lines. Yeah. I don't know if I've answered you.
It's a okay. Well, you say that it's a thing that you learn along the lines, yeah. So then, how
Okay.
do you say, for instance, because it's not something that it's taught physically or say in a school, you have to put in the work. Where do you get the resources? Because for me myself, maybe I'd read whose books, Ogilvy's, or those famous copywriters, Kinalio Burnett, but for the young guy out there who does not have the same access that I do have, where then do they get the resources? If maybe they're not even in close contact, to be able to learn from guys like you or from other creative directors in the industry.
I think resources for copy, go anywhere. It's not anything that you need a major investment in. It's. I'll give an example. In fact, just now I've remembered, like the guys who work with on the team together. One of them is she writes short stories. In fact, she's an award-winning novelist for short stories. The other guy is in a band. Is it a heavy metal hard rock band?
Yes.
I used to be a guy who was in theater, acting, and stuff like that. You, I know, are a poet, yeah, spoken word, and that sort of thing. So
Yes.
if you're seeing there's a kind of similarity there, I think it's just a love for performance and stuff. But mine started basically in things like childhood. I used to like capture that thing of ads, singing along to an ad, that sort of thing. There are resources all over, watching ads, listening to radio, listening to music on your YouTube channels and stuff like that. That's where you find the resources for things like copy. And nowadays, it's like I remember some guys used to come up and like, a guy has got a concept. I think Coca-Cola could do this better. I think this could be done better. I think the thing for resources for copy is how badly do you want it? I mean, I think the main resource for doing that, I think perhaps might just be that side of your brain that wants to do that. Practice, write your own things. I mean, that's basically the resource, and find a mentor or something like that, and just try things. Can I do this ad better? Really, it's interesting. The main resource, I think, actually for creative stuff is what's in your mind. Whether you're a guy of art, like guys of graphics, you could be given a prompt with all the tools, but do you have that talent within you? It's like they say in an ad agency, what's the biggest asset in an advertising agency? And it's the people, the brains.
Yes, the brains.
Anyway,
Now speaking, yeah, okay. Now speaking of brains, let's talk small, just something small about your experiences. You're one of the contestants in Big Brother Africa. That was way back in 2009, and I want to know, maybe during that time you're also moonlighting for radio industries. You are a very good radio director, which is something that we must acknowledge. But during all that time, while you're in South Africa, you're also writing copy. And how much of our experiences inform who we are in the creative industry?
Good question. I think to be, life experiences as a creative, most of the guys I've seen as a creative have, that sort of alter ego. And, we're out there people where I think the experiences, like, let's say if I talk from my sense, all those life experiences have enhanced me in some way. The story of Big Brother, that story came from, actually, that time I was between jobs, right? So I saw this ad on TV, that thing for auditioning for Big Brother. And I thought, man, this is a pretty cool thing, let me go and do this. So I told guys I should do this. And the guys I was with this evening, everyone completely burst out into laughter. So I was so annoyed, I was like, let me prove this to you guys. Now, where did the copy part come into that? Because you're focused on a brand or something. I kind of went in for that audition knowing kind of the thing of, see, these guys, what does this brand look for? They're looking for a character. they look for different sort of people. So, by the time I was going into auditioning and doing that, yes, I could say there was a bit of the advertising background that helped with that. But also that experience of just, I think, seeing the world and doing different gigs kind of like works very well with your creativeness in an agency. Creativity is an expression. So you'll normally find most guys, like I'd said earlier, have something that they do as a side gig to that. The radio thing, I think, was also again based on passion. The time when I got into radio was an interesting time. There was this guy called Bob Kyoko, who was the station, the head of the station at Nation FM, and he was looking for characters. He was looking for some dudes a bit out there, some dudes more on the deep intellectual side. I'm not saying that I wasn't one of them, and somebody who kind of had another killer sense of human stuff. So he came and approached, like, do you guys, can you do this radio show? I've got this idea. In my mind, I was like, oh, this is so cool. Why? Because I'm also attached to, I loved doing radio that's one of the things that I used to do in the agency. So I walked up to the creative director at the time and I said, hey, there's this chance to do this show. We'll be on air from 6. I can come back to the office at 9:30 because there's dead time between that. And he actually encouraged me, as in, go for it, because this thing will grow you creatively in some way. So any of those pursuits, they have this way of kind of bringing the creativity out of you. And it's an interesting blend. I remember at Scanad some time back, there's a time Nameless was working there for a small stint. Amani was also there for a small stint. Kolo, the guy of Kleptomaniacs, had been there for a small stint. So all of these things actually blend together. And my reason for doing all those things is, pursue something creative, that thing that can drive you. Sometimes we're, all caught up in a lot of things that might not be that exciting, every day, writing an e-shot, that thing of this consumer, blah, 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 blah,
Yes.
stuff that it's good to keep your creative juices flowing. That's how all those things blend. Plus, one of the things that I actually believe in is do one huge thing every year.
Yes.
Just getting the juices going. So that huge thing at the time was Big Brother.
Okay. Now, you said do one huge thing. And from our lower thirds, we see that you are a Berlin School of Creative Leadership alumnus. And there's this debate that we have, whether you, as young people, whether you can really teach creativity or whether it's something that is in you. And some people, the larger school always say that creativity is in you. And there are all these leadership schools like ISA, like the Berlin School of Creativity. Would you encourage a young person to go to the schools of creativity?
Definitely. Yeah, I think one thing, yes, creativity definitely has to be new. But all these schools, what they do is that they just craft. They craft that knowledge that they craft it into something that will develop from there. Yes, there are those schools that you could join, definitely. The only thing that I find is that they're quite expensive institutions, like the ones some in SA and that sort of stuff. But nowadays there are so many resources to get these things done. I think in Kenya there's ISA, International School of Advertising, but also let me tell you something. Just watch things, go to those sites, and you'll start gaining some. There are a lot of sites where things are really posted on all the ads. And then the internet is erased. So I mean, are you going to be Instagramming the whole day? Are you going to be FB the whole day? Or are you going to get something to learn? You can get it anywhere. The story for the Berlin School, which I got into because of because every year Cannes has this like scholarship program where you get into the Berlin School of Creative Leadership and also Cannes Lions. So you spend some time between both. That's something that I just found on the net one day. I was just chilling, and then I was going through browsing things. Then I saw this thing written, scholarship for Cannes, whatever, and I was like, what is this thing? It's a fully paid bursary. So I did this. So I looked at the thing and I said, oh, this thing is for any country applicants for any country that has not won a Cannes Gold, or I think a Cannes Grand Prix. So you just write like, a certain number of words why you think you'd be the best candidate for that. So again, this way advertising came in. I looked at this thing and I said, wait a minute. So what these guys, wait, Africa hasn't yet really made a mark in Cannes. So what do you do? Write this thing. So my thing was like, Africa is full of lions, but the one thing that we do not have is a Cannes lion. So if I manage to get this scholarship, I will go and whatever I learn about those things, so I can start introducing Africa to a different type of lion. So you see, it was just a branding advertising exercise. And I thought, whatever, sent the thing. 2 weeks later, something like, I see, congratulations, you have won this full scholarship. The place I was working at the time, Nation Media Group, paid for, the thing of the fair to go there and some of the per diems. And how did that happen? I took a chance. You see, you find these things somewhere. It's not I didn't have the money to go there. So I took a chance and I found something because I was reading things that were related to creative. So there are these opportunities in many places to hook up with that sort of thing.
Okay, interesting. Now, when you say take a chance, there's something that from your past interviews that you talk about, which is, if I may read, if there's anything you want to do in life, just do it. And I think that has been your guiding mantra, which has even led you to being a creative director at Scanner. Care to talk about just a little bit about how one gets to become a creative director? Because as much as we don't say it, a lot of young people, they see the road to getting to the top, and they're like, hey, who do I have to do? What do I have to do? Which politics do I have to play? Is talent really enough? Could you maybe just expound a little bit on that?
Okay. Yes, definitely. Okay, talent. Talent is something that it's very. There's some guys who say, yes, I've got the talent, but I think it's more of the belief. If you believe you have the talent, but what are the routes to go there? Start finding out who are the creative guys in certain places, right? And like start approaching some guys. Is this your email address? Is this whatever? Hi, my name is so and so. I want to learn more about this creative process and stuff like that. So you start getting into those circles of those people, how you can connect with them and that kind of thing. Then slowly, you'll find a mentor who'll start nurturing you into these things, who'll start nurturing you. Now, sooner or later, let me not cheat you. If you believe, you will definitely, I think, if you whatever, you will find yourself somewhere into the agency. And by what I mean by agency, I'm not saying at the scan groups or at this big agency groups. You can start anywhere. And right now, in fact, I see there's more opportunity because there are a lot of hot shops that are doing that kind of stuff. And what do? You don't necessarily first have to do it for the money. Go in and start finding a way of, can I start just give me a project that I can do? Or do some things, if you can do some things for free, fine, just to learn your skill, As you go in, introduce yourself to more people and that kind of thing. And slowly, you get into that creative circle. Now, from there, it's up to you, as in terms of how you're going to learn. Get resources, like the thing I'm saying, the resources on the net, or start really hounding guys. And just because you're based in one agency or one place, it doesn't mean that you can't talk to other guys. Now you start going through the process. But the truth is, being a creative director actually takes some time. By the time you're getting to get to that CD position, what's a CD? It's not just creativity. It's a thing of how do you relate with clients? It's a thing of, how do you take a call? How do you argue well for something? How do you get into there are a lot of things to do with budget and stuff like that. But if you stick to it, just use some tactics and you'll actually get there. The thing is, don't come saying, oh, I'm the greatest, or to do stuff like that. Get in, learn. There's so many agencies right now. It doesn't have to be the biggest one, like I said, but there are different ways of getting to that, or just start doing some proactive stuff. But you'll build yourself slowly towards being a creative director. And if you get a good mentor, I'll give you one example. My mentor was Andrew White, who now runs Fat Twin Films, but he was, the major shareholder for Scan at the time. So I got into Scanner by really knocking on a lot of doors. I remember Barrett kept me waiting. I just wanted to be, like, let me get into this place. I
Yes.
stayed in that reception for, I think, about 2 weeks because I wanted to
Yeah.
see this guy. I wanted to be advertising. And then he finally let me in. Now, when Andrew White came back and I told him, hey, I just want to learn. I think that's where we clicked. I want to learn from you and stuff like that. And let me tell you, it was a drilling. Because like I used to write like a headline for a simple caption, and the guy says you've not tried hard enough, go 50 headlines that are about the same thing, and you walk out of the creative director's office almost crying. So guts, patience, and just that thing of you believe you have a talent, network, and just some flair, but you'll get into it. I don't think it's a very hard thing. Now from building that, that's like any other profession. I mean, there are nurses who've become doctors and that kind of thing. How badly do you want it? But I think it's a very possible and easy thing to reach. It's like maybe the starts from that thing is like if there's somebody watching this now, you gain some knowledge and you keep on going with it. So it's not something that's impossible to achieve. And then if the agencies tell you to go to hell, start your own, you become your own creative director. Why not?
Yeah. Well, speaking of starting your own, from your own, I don't want to put you on the spot, but from your own perspective, do you think young creatives are too impatient? Because if you, like you said previously, there's been a lot of people branching out and setting up. I'm a multidisciplinary agency, those located in Medsita in Kino and all that. But he does everything. He does copy. He does art. He's even the client service. Do you think young people are too, not, I won't say of ambitions, but we are not patient enough to climb the ladder?
That's an interesting question. I could say that, and as old school guys, say young guys are too impatient and stuff like that. And there's some prodigies who actually get into stuff and do it. The guys are worked in agencies. No, I mean, there's some of course, young blood starts a bit impatient and stuff like that, but you get through the channels and stuff. I wouldn't say guys are impatient. I think young guys right now are much hungrier because they're exposed to a lot of things. There's nothing wrong with starting your own multifaceted agency if you feel that you can do it a lot. And I think for creativity, impatience is a rather, it's a fantastic thing in a way, because like I can do that idea better or something like that. You can only do that in this industry. You can't go to like if it's medicine, you've studied for 1 year and you're like, okay, now I'm ready to do surgery on guys. So, impatience might be a good quality. But if it's in terms of going to make the big bucks and stuff like that, that will take some time, because sometimes clients might buy your work because of the trust they have in you. So are you going to gain that trust to somebody? I mean, if you can do it all, you can do it all. But yeah, I mean, some guys make it with impatience. Some guys don't. But creativity is a thing that you have to learn.
Yeah.
So it's not that you can get it like this. I can do it better. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Now, where is the blend between, as a creative director, where is the blend between creativity and the director part? Because I'm sure you've seen that meme. It's all over, where the art director, say the creative director of the ECD is behind you, and then he's pointing, with some other guys, make a change here, make the logo here, make the logo bigger, add more hue to this color. Where does the creativity end and the director comes in, or where does the director end and the creative stays?
Wow. Okay. That's an interesting question. In fact, now you're taking me back to that thing of thinking that I was also impatient. Yes. I think there's a point where, like you're right, I'm a copywriter and I'm honed in on my craft, or I'm an art director and I stick to that. There comes to a place where if some things start blending, the copy guy can tell the art guy or visualize a way of doing that, or the art guy can come up with some copy lines for something. Now those two start blending in, right? Then there's also another part which is more of the strategic thinking, where you can see a brief, but you say, no, this thing needs to be done like this. So you start becoming an all-rounder. You get what I'm saying? You're blending
Yes.
copy, you're blending your knowledge of briefs, you're blending a bit of strategy, you're blending thoughts of, let's say you've been on one production or the other, you know how to direct guys. So when you start putting in that whole mix, that's when you come, it starts developing into that. Again, also clients trust you, that kind of thing, so that you can handle some clients by yourself. And this whole thing starts stirring in the pot, and that's what, that's where creativity emerges. Another thing also, I think also, like in some places, if you've won some awards and those kind of things, then that's a quick path to that you're actually ready for it. But there's a lot that goes more than just writing words and pretty pictures. I think now is when you've blended a lot of things, and also do you have that character of, I think, leadership and that sort of thing. So that's what happens, that you can think like this.
Okay. Now, before we continue, let me give a few shout outs to a few people. I see Ovesha, I see Delphine, and I see Mushira, who has a question, which is, how approachable are you? I love how you assert possibilities. So before we continue with other questions, how approachable are you, Ted?
Definitely, extremely approachable. Edward.Muthusi. Yes. Edward, yeah. Edward.
Dot.
Edward.Muthusi@gmail.com or 0724670899, or I can get, you can find me in those routes, and I'm very approachable. I think I've got a passion for, if somebody wants to learn and they're serious about it, we can walk the journey with you. It's just that thing of how serious you are about it. Yeah, definitely very approachable. So if you want to talk, definitely give me a call and we can find out. If it's something that I feel that I can't do for you, I'll point you to the right direction of the people who can do things for you. So, let's talk. That's how we got into this industry. So anytime, bro.
Yep. So Mushira, you've heard, is very approachable. You can also go to his website, download his CV, and just check out where you could be if you hang out with the guy much more. Now, let's talk.
I'm about to destroy that website.
Yeah.
I think
So what has been the biggest creative? Of course, I know that you've gone through a lot in this industry. You've handled so many briefs, so many clients, Safaricom, Coca-Cola, and whatnot. But I want to know, what has been the greatest or the biggest creative challenge so far in your career? Something that was just like, hey, I can't do this.
I think working on the biggest challenge, I think, was a time we were working on briefs for Safaricom. When every certain number of years they come up with this thing for who's going to do this huge brand campaign for them. And that's one of the things I always wanted to do, because remember, the precedents were set with things like Nikon Safaricom and stuff like that. So the brief came in, and there were definitely shivers in terms of okay, how am I going to do this, or how are we going to handle it? And somehow working with a great team that developed. Now getting to the production was something else, because there's a challenge of people, the way people talk about some certain brand ads as a thing of, is this next one going to be as good as the last one? No, this wasn't, something like that. So I think, to me, I felt that was a very big achievement for being able to crack that. The thing we did was that, I know it was some time back, keep the connections going, but for me, that was a major achievement on a huge brand campaign like that. The only other things I think that face challenges which are very scary are, sometimes when you're let to handle a pitch and it's between you and that thing, are you going to be the person who's going to bring this account to the agency or bring the money to that? Yeah. Another very serious challenge is the challenge that is normally posed to us guys nowadays of getting international advertising awards. So Kina Max Ngare, Kina Emuron, the boys at Ogilvy, I think Kina Fahan, these are the guys, I think that was YNR at the time. guys started, bringing this thing of international. So I think one of the biggest challenge now is that thing of when agents are saying produce, where the awards, produce thing.
Yes.
So I mean, it's crazy, man. I mean, this guy is such a serious precedent, and now the Kenyans are in Cannes and stuff like that. That's a big challenge nowadays.
Yeah. Now let's just circle back to that award thing for a little bit. How important are awards to a creative career? Because let's face it, it's very competitive and not everyone will get the award. So how important is it to a creative career?
Awards are a very important thing for a creative, because it's that's a chest thumping thing that sells the creativeness of an agency. It's a thing that you can say, I got this, so this is a mark that I'm recognized, or the work that I do is very important. But here's the thing: there's some guys who have that debate that no, awards don't matter. It's bringing in the money that matters. And there's always been that great debate. But an accolade in anything that you do, I think, is a very worthy thing to pursue, and it just takes you up on that higher level. It boosts your ego. It keeps on it instills a competitive nature into you. So awards are important. But I think the place where I think maybe some guys freak out on is where some awards are greater than the others.
Yes.
So, like in this country, there's the Marketing Society of Kenya Awards, which is that thing of the performance in things marketing, where you've taken the brands. I look at them as an extremely great thing, because I love it. There if you can win for your client things, because those are really based on what I like about the Marketing Society of Kenya Awards. They're based on real ads that ran and that sort of thing. There's the APA Awards, Advertising Practitioner Association Awards, which have become extremely competitive, are fantastic over here. And that's the agents against each other. Of course, sometimes you do spec work, which is like you go and find a client which is not necessarily yours, and you develop some great work for that, but it's a showcase of creativity. Then regionally, the other awards, and obviously the creme de la creme is those things of the Kana Awards or the DNAD Awards. So awards are, they're the mark. If you have a CV and it says that you've won, or a portfolio with these different types of awards, it's a great thing. But it's an amazing thing.
Okay, interesting. Now, Mushira has a question, and I would like to encourage people, because we are almost to the close of the show. If you have a burning question, kindly ask it right now up on the comment section. Mushira is asking, I'm curious to know how you manage to have multiple bosses or authorities to report to, especially on handling criticism and feedback. Where does your temerity stem from?
That's a fantastic question. Let me not cheat you. In creative, you get so attached to something and you believe in it so much. It's like you see this over here, these drawings. It's like that thing of Dad, do you think my painting is good? You can say yes, and the person's ego is boosted. You can give what you think, and you say no, and the person just feels like crying. So it's a very sensitive thing. And yes, there are different bosses. Like, I'll give you the example. There's, like in my case, there's an executive creative director. There's a CEO, there's an MD, there's a person of strategy, there's a client service person who's handling that and that sort of thing. So you go and present to things, and sometimes you'll handle criticism in a good way if the criticism is leading you in a certain direction towards solving the problem. So it's the thing is, like, I don't think that might be the right direction, because the consumers here are more not guys who are like on a higher level. These are mass guys. So you have to talk to them in a certain way. So somebody leads you in that kind of direction, that's fine. Criticism with leads. If somebody's just criticizing your idea without leading you into something, then that's an a-hole. Yeah, in that kind of thing. But you need to have, as I say again, you get to learn these things. I had a bad incident once, and I'll tell you about this. A guy once criticized something that we had sold to a client in that meeting. And I think I was tired. I hadn't slept for some time, so shouted back at the guy, and this thing ended up being kind of like a rumble in the jungle, which I regret at the time.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that was me handling the criticism badly. But it gets to a very tough thing, but you learn to figure out your way through. Somehow you'll be led. There's a method to the madness, and somehow somebody who criticizes your work well is going to lead you somewhere, the solution. It's like I tell guys, I don't think there's any bad meeting with a client. Nothing of, the client shouted at us, the client did this. Sawa. So you finish shouting. So now that you've shouted, is there a direction that we're going to go through? Because it's not an exam. I didn't know about your brand and something like that. Are you going to lead in the right direction? So criticism can be painful. Yes, you'll hold it in. But normally the people who lead you in the right direction, that's fine. It's tough, yeah. You've got to learn how to maneuver through people.
Now, speaking of criticism, I'm sure this is a question that you get a lot from just the industry and from other creative directors. A lot of the creative directors, especially in Kenya, I don't have the statistics, but from just using my eyes, I can tell that a lot of them are usually male. Are we saying females are not creative enough to become creative directors, or what is the problem?
That's an interesting question. It has been posed to me enough times. There's nothing stopping any ladies from being creative directors. In fact, if you know, one of the first, like, also not even just a lady, but also like indigenous creative directors was back in Makan, some lady called Judy Kibinge. I know some Shirokanywa who was with them. Was it Transit? Transit or something. But the opportunity is there. In fact, I'd pose back that question, as in, like, I'm not seeing too many. I've not seen a lot of interest from that side. Although now it's happening, like a lot in the digital front and stuff like that. But there's actually no one stopping. In fact, there've been many people who've almost achieved that. There was Monaki Mugambi some time back. A lot of names. I mean, there's a whole ton, and that's the next wave. So I don't think that there's a very chauvinistic or appeal to that. In fact, I'll even challenge agencies, because I think the agency I work with some time back had raised that question, and there was a client who raised that question: why is it only men who are coming into this to present for us guys? So by all means, I mean, go for it. There's nothing stopping that. In fact, even right now, there's even, it's just a great opportunity. There's no one stopping anyone. I can't answer that question because I don't know why. But the doors are completely open.
Okay, I will not put you on the spot again. I'm on mute. Let's talk something small about, now, as a creative director, you are hired primarily to bring something different to the table. Well, and sadly, for working for so long in the agency, say for instance you worked for Scanad for a long time, do you sometimes stop thinking differently and start thinking as the system? Because you've worked there for so long, you start losing your individual self and fall into line. Does that happen to you?
That's a very, very good point. And it's something that, yes, has happened to me sometimes. When you start being more of, let me be that guy who produces and churns out work fast, and I become more of this efficient machine, but I forget about becoming, that creative, doing a lot of creative stuff. So sometimes systems can do that to you, but it's something that you have to monitor yourself and get out of it. Because once you start doing that, I think you've already started showing yourself out, of the door by yourself. That's the thing about creative. It's a very driven thing. You've got to try and look for the next level and keep on challenging yourself all the time. To tell you the truth, agencies have different cultures. Ogilvy, for instance, those are the guys who are now known for the international awards. Scanad, known for massive, efficiency and stuff like that. Isobar, I think there's something innovative going on there. those are like the chilled guys, but
Yes.
they come out and shock you guys with the amount of kind of stuff that they're doing. So every
Yes.
agency, I think, has its different culture. Can you get solid into it? Yes. And it's something that you definitely have to be careful about, as in, what are your goals? What are you aiming for? What do you want to achieve? Some guys, you'll be happy there. I mean, me, I'm the efficient guy. That's cool. Some guys want to take things a bit further, but yes, you can be swallowed into it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you'll find that, say, for instance, it's 2020 and creativity as a whole is changing very quickly, especially our industry. Every day there's something new, there's the rapid change. How do you, as a young creative director, maybe because you look young, how then do you keep ahead of these trends? Considering that these young people as well, they're coming up fast, like you said, and they're hungrier. How do you stay ahead of the competition such that you're not just teaching them, but you're also learning from them?
When it comes to that question, I think the biggest thing, like for instance, I'm just learning from them.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things towards getting the best creative output is actually how good your team is. And to tell you the truth, I'm really learning so much from guys. To tell you the truth, a lot of digital social stuff used to intimidate me, and it's a scary thing. That thing of, my God, these guys are too far. But I think that's the most interesting collabo nowadays, is that younger guys are now mentoring some guys as into how to do things. But also, I think it's, be part, immerse yourself into what guys are doing. What's TikTok? Check into TikTok, open your profiles and stuff like that. Are you on Instagram? What's happening on the ground? What are the new things that are coming out? Because, all these new things that are happening, I think advertising sometimes is a response to that. People are on this social media. How do we get to those people? Guys are doing this. How do you get to that? So I think it's easier if you immerse yourself in what's going on, the trends and stuff like that, which even before digital, all this whole thing started, was the essence of creativity. What are the trends? What are guys doing? What are guys saying and stuff like that? Just get into it and get into that mix. But yeah, the younger guys definitely have a lot to offer. I can't say some things I'll be able to know that without those guys teaching me. Yeah. So in fact, it's a very good mix now.
Yeah. There's something you've said that has really piqued my interest, and you say that advertising is a response. Now, I'd like to know, where is that question? Is it appropriate for design to overrule data? Because, say, sometimes this is the data that the research team has presented to you, and you find that in our advertising sector, we are told to, what is the data? What is the research saying? But you, as a creative director, say you have a hunch, and you go with your gut feeling. How then, when is it appropriate to override this data with that gut feeling?
Wow. Yeah. Okay. By the way, that only happens in certain brands. Huh? I think there's some guys who have very technical ways of doing it. A lot of these multinationals of, we're going to test this and stuff like that. You see a lot of those things in the EABLs, in the Unilevers, I think, Safaricom also has a touch of those things. Data is important, but if you're going to do some really breakthrough things, I think, yeah, you're right. It's a gut feel, but it's not just from you. It's a chance that you also take with whoever is in the marketing side, whoever is in the client side. It's that agreement that, okay, are we going to take this risk? And you take the risk together. But to tell you the truth, sometimes in here, it is a calculated risk, because something from the brand has to be, there has to be something that's going to touch base, so where this thing is going to land. So it's not just a pretty picture that you're going to do. You're going to do a picture like this. It's an informed risk. So I'd say this: these guys come to you with some stuck up data, and you can come to them with data of some behavioral thing that guys are behaving like this. This is what guys want to see, and that kind of stuff. So there's a risk, but there's, like I said, there's a lot of things that go into advertising. You've got to take that risk with a bit of a notion that this is what's going to happen, some psychology of it. It's not just guesswork that you're going to throw something like that. There's something that informs that risk that you're about to take. And by the way, sometimes I actually feel for clients, us guys in creative, is like that thing of, the ad was this, the ad was that. This guy is dealing with a huge budget, and
Yes.
it's make or break. This budget that this person is dealing with could either make that company or break that company. So by the time that guy is going to take a risk, you really, really have to be convincing, and they really have to trust you on some things. Although sometimes, as the agency, of course, you'd say, let me take the risk, but no one is going to put their brand behind a risk that's not been endorsed by the client themselves. So, yeah. In fact, a lot of these crazy ads that you see most of the time, like entered in awards, those are things that guys have gone like sort of pro bono to a certain type of client. And they said, yeah, let's take the risk with that. But yeah, it's calculated sometimes. But
Yes.
yeah. And then also there's another thing that you have to realize. This stuff that we see in awards, it's not your everyday advertising. It's not that every single thing that you produce every day is an award-winning ad. That's something that comes from a lot of thought, and not every ad that you do every day is those risque ads and stuff. But it's going to open up a lot. Thank you for social media and all these digital channels. That now that's where bravery lands, to get guys' attention.
Yeah. Now, speaking of bravery, you find that I think a lot of the time your role involves, especially as a creative director, it's management of egos, and there's a lot of ego in the creative industry, especially as a creative who believes that my idea works. My idea is supreme, and I believe this should be the idea that should go. How then do you, as a creative director, balance the ego and the person?
Wow. That's an interesting one. Let me tell that from my experience and the guys that were in advertising a long time and how we were handled. So it goes, us guys thought we were rock stars. We thought we were untouchable. We were the it. Arnold Mashumbe, Eric Davi, all those guys. A guy called Dexter. Some guy called Munyi Mutai. There was a crew of guys. You guys you thought you were the it, and us guys couldn't be touched. We're like, you guys can't be touched and stuff like that. But what used to happen is the creative directors kind of at that time kind of understood our psyche, but they wouldn't. You'd get a blasting sometime here or not, but it was the tone on which a creative was dealt with. I think a good creative director, how to sort of, massage that creative ego, but you have to lead the guy in a certain way, and to handle that ego. I think the times when the guys who blast guys and tell you what and stuff like that to a creative, I don't think you get along. Sometimes you've got to have tough love, but sometimes I think it's basically guiding that process. Yes, sometimes you have to treat creative with kitty gloves. Sometimes there are guys who you just have to just say, you know what, we can't do this, go. And it's just more of talking to guys. But yes, it's a very sensitive area dealing with creatives, myself included. There are guys, there's some mistakes I've made in meetings when we were called for town halls and stuff like that. Then I decided to become the Francis Atwoli of the whole creative group, and almost started leading revolutions. But from things like that, the MD understood and came and talked to me down, and we started finding paths together on how to handle things. So egos are a sensitive thing, and that's one of the things of leading creatives that you have to be very, very sensitive about. Yeah.
So then how then,
Sorry, go on.
How then do you define a successful creative director? Because just like you said, it's all about massaging egos and handling egos. But then you find that, say, someone, for instance, I'd say you're very good with people, and another creative director is very good at the work, but he does not have those rare interpersonal skills. where then is the line between a successful creative director and a good job creative director?
I think that question is more in terms of, I think that's a very leadership question in general. There are different types of leaders.
Yes.
There are leaders who are democratic leaders. There are leaders, those guys who are like, the kind of dictatorship of this is what you do and stuff like that. They're the kind of leaders where you're the kind of leader who inspires. There's a kind of also nasty leaders in agencies who are the guys who, are so insecure about their jobs and are trying to be relevant. They see somebody has an idea, they come and hog it and run away with it. So there are a lot of different types of leaders in creative, and you'll find these guys all over the place. So I don't think there's one, like holy grail, or like the 10 commandments of being a creative leader. I think you discover it as you go. A creative director there's some leadership in there. And I think I've worked with all sorts. I've worked with the lazy guys. I've worked with the guys who steal ideas. I've worked with the guys who you shivered to go into their offices and stuff like that. But maybe some people say it's all about the work. Some guys are good at the work and not good with people. Some guys are excellent with people, but not too good with the work, but they'll be kept there because they're excellent.
Yes,
so
yes.
you'll meet different along the journey, like any type of boss in any organization.
Yeah. When it comes to journeys, what do you wish you knew? Because I'm sure from when you started advertising to how it is right now, what do you wish you knew while starting?
What do I wish I knew while starting?
Yes.
I wish I knew that that it would be very easy to get swallowed into a certain lifestyle, a certain crowd, and I could have stuck more to looking at my goals and stuff like that than just rolling with the crowd at the time. I also, I guess, wish I knew that kind of the importance of. I wish I took the thing of getting awards a bit more seriously, because I've seen what it does to people. I used to just think it's complete nonsense. I wish I knew the importance of those awards much earlier. Although because in terms of taking the career a bit further, I wish I knew how sometimes to when to hold back in meetings, because it could have pointed a certain character that could have maybe jeopardized joining other industries and stuff like that. But it's been a fun, fantastic journey. I think those regrets are just basically character regrets, nothing much. But I was a very hard-headed character at the time. But the thing also was, I think I got lost in some 2 years from about a certain digital wave, and I got, I kind of got lost into that. But I'm back with that thing, to keep pace with the times. But it's been a fantastic journey. Couldn't have done anything else. I have too many regrets.
No,
I do.
No, it's it's enough. That shows that you've lived well. now, as we come to the close of the show, you've been talking about how it's been a fun and fantastic journey up to where we are now. For your projections to the future, where do you see creativity? What do you see as the future of advertising? I know there's all this charade against agencies, that agencies are dying and stuff like that. I'd just like to hear your opinion and what you yourself think is the future of creativity, not just in Kenya, but worldwide.
I think the future of creativity is the future of wherever the world is going, if you ask me.
Yeah.
The more things change, whatever consumers will be doing, and the more demands that consumers will be having, the more they want to be doing things simply. That's where the future of advertising is. I hear a lot of guys talking about the future advertising is in, or the future of creativity is in more solutions with clients, developing that tech and stuff like that. I think agencies will be, it's more of that thing of like, you'll be invited to give more creative solutions or things with clients than just doing ads. That's why I think the future of creativity has gone, because I think a lot of clients are starting to discover, yeah, these guys have something to say over here. Let's take the brand like this or that way. But my simplest answer to that is that creativity will really have to, in a way, start really follow up, being at par with trends, or start creating new platforms and that kind of thing. But my simplest answer to that is, if the flow of life changes, how people interact with products, how people communicate, how, that kind of thing, that's where the flow of creativity is going to go. So creativity is changing the world. What's the future of creativity? Me, I'm like, what's the future of the world? That's where you're going to end up.
Wow.
Is it too scientific?
Amazing. No. Now you see, we've come from your regrets. Now we've come to you as a thoughtful, pensive person. You see how we've saved your career there. Anyway.
Thank you, man.
Anytime. As we come now, finally to the close of the show, I've become those pastors who end the service 7 times. As we come to final and the last final to the close of the show, I want to know, what are those, those 3 words that someone say that changed your life? Because I remember some time back you used to have dreads, which I'm still fascinated about. I don't know why, but I want to know those words that someone say to you that changed your life.
I love you. No.
Thank you.
No, just one thing, and it's interesting that you've asked this question, and it's something that I was reading, and yesterday, actually, this came to me. It's a coincidence like this, and I think this is my new mantra, which is going to actually change my life, as into my career or other people. 4 words: stay hungry, stay foolish. And that's from Steve Jobs.
Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Stay foolish. Yeah. Hungry for more success, take risks. Yeah.
Stay hungry, stay foolish. I could not have put it better. I've just remembered someone has texted me a very interesting question, which I have to ask you, which I'd actually saved it for the last. As a creative director, your role involves asking the right questions. Ask me a question.
Yeah.
Ask me one right now. Ask me the right question right now.
Why do you think this channel of yours is different from everything that's on YouTube?
Well, because I am not afraid to ask the tough questions, and I'm not afraid to go deep. And it's not just about having a channel on YouTube. It's about putting out creative content, creative quality content, and staying hungry and staying foolish.
Brilliant answer. And you know why I'd buy into that? That's excellent, because you didn't jitter, you're confident about it, and that sort of thing. You sold yourself. It's a fantastic thing. Just to answer that, that sometimes I tell you, agencies sometimes have sold absolute crap, nonsense to clients. The way you've sold that thing, those guys actually believe you. Yes. So part of it is also.
In defense, I can say that I've got to hang out with the best of the best. Like I normally tell guys that I have one of the best creative directors around. My phone book has actually very big people in this country, not just in terms of creativity, but in terms of hunger for achievement and hunger for life. And I believe that if I'm able to share you guys, like someone shared themselves with me, we're able to, to reduce the journey that, like you took, say, 10 years to get where you are, someone else might take now 5 years. Basically, that is the purpose of this show.
I think you're doing a brilliant thing, and it's really my pleasure really to be here, because it's also challenges, and I try and figure out where I am in life. So please keep on doing what you're doing, and I'll also get as many people as I can to do this. And it's a fantastic thing. We didn't have this sort of thing when us guys were going through this whole journey, and I think you're doing an excellent thing. I think my nieces, my nephews, some guys who are younger and stuff like that are onto this just to kind of learn. Is this the path that their career should go to? Maybe the guys who want to change careers and get into this. I think you're doing an absolutely fantastic job. So well in on that, man.
Thank you. Now, before you start crying here and you're getting me emotional, there's a question. There's a question that some chick sent me. She made me make sure that she said the only reason she's going to watch this show is when I ask you this question. What is your skincare routine? Answer that and we'll finish this show.
My skincare routine.
Yes, I want to know.
I don't have a skincare routine. I wash. I bathe regularly.
That
Actually,
is not fun.
No, there's I don't have a regular skincare routine. I think my wife feeds me well with the right nutrients.
So there you have it, guys. The secret is marriage, not just marriage, but the right partner who says I love you. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. See you next Friday. We'll have more amazing guests. His name was Teddy Muthusi. We love you guys. Thank you. Make sure you subscribe and you follow him. He has a website, www.teddymuthusi.com. But I'll make sure you send this when I'm editing the video. I'll put all these links there. Thank you. See you next Friday.
Thank you so much.